Thank you. That's better. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. My name is Carla Williams, and I currently serve as president of the UCE Board of Trustees. Let's hear it for the board. And you too could be a board member. Just let me know. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we are grateful you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. If you are joining us online, there are many links of connection in the descriptions below the YouTube live stream, including the order of service credits, ways to support our mission, and how to join our email newsletter. If you're in the sanctuary, we encourage you to use the QR code for the digital order of service or to take one of the large print order of services. Both are located either on the table in the lobby, and there are also listening devices as well. Hymnals are available for anyone to use. A few announcements. For next week's service, bring your favorite banned book to share. Our evacuation drill is being rescheduled for next week after the service. Also next week, Bike the Ridge is happening right outside. And today, our children's faith formation programming begins. Yay! And now, let us settle into our shared time of reflection, celebration, and inspiration. As we begin our worship service, those joining us online are invited to gather your chalice as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship. The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. In 1829, this land was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community, who had no choice but to sell their land to the U.S. government before being forcibly removed west of the Mississippi River. This land was then sold to white settlers. The Chicagoland area is now home to one of the largest and most diverse urban Native communities in the United States. The acknowledgement of this land's history is one small effort towards building long-term solidarity with contemporary indigenous communities. We name these realities with honor for all the ancestors and with respect for our descendants, with gratitude for the animals and plants sustained by this land, and with deep appreciation for the land we use as sacred space. As members of the denominational affairs team light our chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in saying these words by Steve Stock, found on the screen. We light this chalice to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to reaffirm the historic pledge of liberal religion, to seek that justice which transcends mere legality and moves toward the resolution of a true equality, and to share that love which is ultimately beyond even our cherished reason, that love which unites us. Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, let's turn to one another briefly to say good morning. Try to greet someone sitting near you that you don't know. For those of you online, you can greet each other in the chat.
Before you take your seats, I missed it. Please rise in body or spirit and sing hymn number 1054, Let This Be a House of Peace.
Well, good morning. Get all my stuff here. So did you know that this month, September 30th, is Universalism Day? I bet not. Yeah. Well, Universalism Day marks the founding of Universalism here in the United States way back in 1770 by John Murray, who was a preacher who had a reluctant start to his claim to fame. You never know what the wind will blow in or which way the wind blows. The wind can change directions and maybe change your life. It happened to John Murray. As a young man, John Murray had excellent fortune blow his way. He had a fine education, a steady job, a loving wife, and a young son. Life was good. Then suddenly everything changed. John Murray's wife and their son became sick and died. John lost his job, lost all of his money, and was put in jail because he could not pay his bills. John was a very religious man, a Universalist, who had even preached about a loving God. Now, he was not so sure what he believed. He felt his life was over. Friends urged him to go someplace where he could start again. And so he sailed for America on a ship named the Hand in Hand. The wind blew the ship toward their destination, New York. But then the fog rolled in, and the ship ran aground somewhere around New Jersey instead. John and a few others volunteered to leave the ship to get directions and supplies. And as he was walking ashore, he saw a farmhouse with a small chapel beside it. It belonged to a man named Thomas Potter. Thomas Potter greeted John, gave him food for everyone on the ship, and then invited John to come back and have dinner with him later that night. When John came back, Thomas Potter showed him the chapel. Thomas Potter said that he believed in a loving God who wanted to accept all people into heaven. John said that he believed the same thing. Thomas Potter told John that he had built the chapel and was waiting for God to send him a minister. You, John, are that minister. I have waited for you a long time. And John did not want to hear this. He was not a preacher anymore, and he was determined to never preach again. Yet Thomas Potter seemed confident that John was the Universalist preacher he waited for. And he asked John to preach on Sunday. I can't preach on Sunday, said John, because as soon as the wind changes, my boat will sail and I must be on it. If the boat has not sailed by Sunday, will you preach? Asked Thomas Potter. If I'm still here on Sunday, I will preach, said John Murray. So what do you think happened? Did the wind blow? Did the Hand in Hand sail away? Nope, no wind blew. No ship sailed. John Murray preached on Sunday morning, September 30th, 1770, in the chapel Thomas Potter built for him many years ago. And that, of course, was 252 years ago. The Universalist message of the power of love was good news to many who heard. It was good news for John. The winds of change blew yet again for John Murray. He now wanted to preach more than anything, and he did for many years, and helped found Universalism in America. Because of John Murray and Thomas Potter, we have a faith that invites us to responsibly search for purpose, inspiration, and truth. In covenant, no matter the color of our skin, the language we speak, where we live or go to school, or who we love. A faith whose message is that the transforming power of love belongs to all of us. We also owe a special thanks to the wind that blew him in and would not blow him out. So there's a little ditty we teach in Sunday school, religious education, faith formation, whatever term you prefer to use, about John Murray, and we're all gonna sing it. Yeah. It goes to the tune, "My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean," for those of you who are old enough to know that song. Guilty. And Gregory's going to play us a little intro just to remind us of the melody. And of course, people from home are welcome to sing loudly because, yeah, I would if I were home. So you ready? You want to stand and wave your hand kites or scarves or anything? By all means. Take it away, Gregory. John Murray sailed over the ocean. John Murray sailed over the sea. He just lost his wife and his baby, and he was as sad as could be. Here we go. Sail on, sail on, sail on, John Murray, sail on, sail on, sail on.
Good morning. Each Sunday, we hold space for the joys and the sorrows of those gathered here and online, honoring the struggles and the triumphs, the brokenness and wholeness that is woven into our shared human experience. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you want to share with this community, you can write it in the book in the back. You can send it in through our Google form found on our webpage, or you can simply send me or Reverend Susan an email. These are the sorrows and joys that have been shared today. From Woody Haynes, a joy that the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that the Reproductive Rights Amendment to the state constitution appears on the November 8th ballot. And a concern that it might not pass. Real talk. And congratulations to Toni Ray. She is being honored tonight. I know she's here. Where is she? Oh, she's there. Hi, Toni. Toni's being honored tonight for her wonderful service to the social justice team and interfaith action at the Vision Keepers dinner tonight at 6 o'clock, I think. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 5:30? I don't know, sometime. I'll be there for sure. You go, girl. That's from Marjorie Rogasner. This is the sacred space for our tender offerings, and it is part of our practice of beloved community Together we expand our celebrations and we lessen the burden of our grief. If you have a joy or a sorrow that is on your heart that you would like to honor and recognize before this gathered group, you can come forward now and light a chalice. And I encourage you, if you're at home and you have a candle, please light that candle. You may want to enter your joy or sorrow into the chat. And if you need a candle brought to you, please raise your hand and someone will bring them to you. Please come forward now. For these joys, we give our thanks. For these sorrows, we give our love. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. The Reverend David Eaton was the first African-American minister of All Souls Church Unitarian in Washington, D.C., as well as the first African-American minister of a large Unitarian Universalist congregation in the United States. He died in 1992. This is his prayer. All living substance, all substance of energy and being and purpose are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth to death, this unity we share with the sun, earth, our siblings, strangers, flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams. Birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown. Our destiny from unknown to unknown. I pray that we will know the awe and not fall into the pit of intellectual arrogance in attempting to explain it away. The mystery can be our substance. May we have the faith to accept this wonderful mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. Blessed be. Amen. As we sing our responsive hymn, we invite our young people, preschool through 12th grade, to head to their faith formation time with their adult leaders. The song response is number 352, Find a Stillness.
As we say in our covenant each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with the American Indian Center of Chicago, whose mission is to promote fellowship among Indian people of all tribes living in metropolitan Chicago and to create bonds of understanding and communication between Indians and non-Indians in this city, to advance the general welfare of American Indians into the metropolitan community life, to foster the economic advancement of Indian people, to sustain cultural, artistic, and avocational pursuits, and to perpetuate Indian cultural values. If you are joining us from home or in the building, you may text to give, mail in a check, or give from our website. If you write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering, pledge, capital campaign, or some other giving. If you are in the sanctuary, the ushers will pass the collection bowls down the rows. Will the ushers please come forward? Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. This morning we have 3 short readings to share. The first is from the UUA Article 2 Study Commission Resources. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal faith. The thing that ties us together in religious community is the practice of keeping covenant with each other and the world. Our covenant grows out of our values, which grow out of our inspirations, and all are in service of our purpose. It is because ours is a living covenantal faith that we must revisit the things that are most important to us to be sure they are still the things that are most important to us. And we cannot grow unless we grow together, which is why our conversations about values, inspirations, purpose, and covenant are so important. From Edward A. Frost, introduction of his With Purpose and Principle, published in 1998. Our Unitarian Universalist forebears knew well enough that a religion needs to be able to say to the world what it is that its adherents believe. They struggled from the beginning to express their beliefs in statements that might create the strength of unity while preserving the freedom and diversity each movement held precious. The principles and purposes statement incorporated into the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association is but the latest in a long history of attempts to state, if not a common faith, at least a workable consensus about what brings us together. And finally, from Kathleen Rowlands, from the introduction of Sources of Our Faith, published in 2012. Ours will always be a living tradition, reflecting the ever-flowing stream of human thought and spirituality. The sources outline the diversity of religious experience that forms the basis of Unitarian Universalist faith. Our tradition is held together by our profound respect and love for these teachings and inspirations. The sources are the ideas and deeds that reflect human experience, but they also point to that which lies beyond human understanding. They remind us that first and foremost, Unitarian Universalism is a religion rooted in the experience of the holy.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time. this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I follow the great sick spiritual leader and activist Valerie Kaur, and this month she shared this inspiration in my email inbox. She wrote, "My name for this era is the Great Transition. Some days are so deadly I can taste ash in my mouth. Other days I see people who have no obvious reason to love one another come together to make a way out of no way. In these moments, I see glimpses of the world wanting to be born, a beloved community that leaves no one behind. Will we transition the U.S. into a healthy, multiracial democracy anchored in dignity? Will we transition humanity into a species that lives sustainably with the earth? It will all depend on whether we can transition ourselves." End quote. Amidst the constant tumult of life, we look for ways to hold steady. Unitarian Universalism is a faith that embraces tradition and transition. Our voices, our actions, and our love are desperately needed to root us in this time of transition. And because this is a moment of heightened anxiety and fear about all that the future may hold, because this is a time when despair can keep us frozen, imagining every worst-case scenario, our coming together to remember that we are not alone, and to imagine the possibilities of more love, more hope, more joy, and more liberation is a vital exercise in our religious endeavor. I imagine if I titled this sermon, "The Article 2 Study Commission," many of you would have decided to stay home and not tune in. But the truth is, something big is happening in our faith, and I want you to know about it, because we are all vital participants in this process of great transition. This congregation and each of us as individuals has a role to play in articulating the purposes, the principles, the sources, and covenants of our tradition. As a progressive religious movement, Unitarian Universalism is more concerned with where we're going and the ways that we are getting there than we are bound by our history, which is not to say that history doesn't matter. Our message for all ages this morning shared a bit of our history, how one of our forebears, John Murray, brought universalism to the shores of the people of the Lenape land, also known as New Jersey. And the shared values of this congregation, which we crafted together, included a commitment to bravely and lovingly engage in challenging conversations that explore our personal, congregational, and community histories and inform our actions to dismantle racism. And we are doing this work. A group of people went on a bike trip around Evanston yesterday to explore our racial history. There's a group of us meeting in the archives regularly to uncover and think about our history as a faith community related to racial justice. We are grounded by knowing our history, but we are not held static by that history. Embedded in our living tradition is the imperative to reflect on who we have been, to imagine who we might become, and adapt so that we may continue to be a relevant and guiding force for love and justice in the world. You heard in our reading, and some of you know this, that the Unitarian Universalist Association has a set of bylaws, just like our congregation does, And within those bylaws lives Article 2, which currently includes our 7 principles, 6 sources, and the purpose of the UUA. Now, you might have noticed that I said 7 principles, and you may have said to yourself, wait a minute, I thought we had 8 principles, and we do. But let me explain. Our congregation voted in 2021 to adopt the 8th principle, which affirms our commitment to journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. More than 200 other congregations and groups have also adopted this principle, but the UUA as a whole hasn't yet. In fact, the proposal of this principle at General Assembly several years ago was one of the catalysts that prompted the UUA board to form and charge the Article 2 Study Commission to consider this whole section of the bylaws. Transition can be scary, right? And it might feel unsettling to consider changing these 7 principles and 6 sources which seem foundational to who we are. I would think that some of you, like me, have grown quite fond of our principles and sources, and maybe when someone asks you what Unitarian Universalists believe, you might think about those 7 principles, and that might inform your answer. And though there is much that is enduring about our tradition, like striving for love and justice, the expressions of our progressive faith have been ever-changing and evolving before and since the merger of our 2 traditions into the Unitarian Universalist Association in 1961. What is foundational about Unitarian Universalism is that together we are continually participating in our becoming and thoughtfully reflecting, imagining, and rewriting our purposes, principles, sources, and covenants. As Reverend Kenneth Collier wrote in Our 7 Principles in Story and Verse, one of the characteristics of contemporary Unitarian Universalism is that we believe religious life is ongoing and developing, that any statement of belief is transient, at most an approximation of something permanent, and too deep to ever be fully articulated or expressed in human life. The religious task is always in process, end quote. For us, in other words, revelation is never sealed, and change is the only constant. When the 2 streams of our tradition, Unitarianism and Universalism, merged in 1961, the 5 principles of the American Unitarian Association were adopted into the new UUA's statement of purpose. These 5 principles were an affirmation of individual freedom and belief, discipleship to advancing truth, the democratic process in human relations, universal brotherhood undivided by nation, race, or creed, and allegiance to the cause of a united world community. Now, you might hear in those echoes of our current 7 principles, and you might also hear some words that don't quite fit with who we understand ourselves to be today. Over the 2 decades following the merger, more and more people, namely feminists in our movement, expressed their dissatisfaction with these statements, arguing that they did not adequately reflect the inclusion of women or the diversity of perspectives we wanted to embrace. And in the coming decades, a delicate and deliberate process unfolded to craft language that would capture the pluralism and the expansiveness of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist and how we are collectively charged with living our values in the world. As a result of those who lifted their voices to challenge the status quo, in 1981, the UUA Board of Trustees formed a committee to examine the principles. The process took several years and resulted in 1984 with the adoption of the principles and sources we know today, except for the addition of the 6th source in 1995, which is the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. And that was also a kind of a struggle and a process to get that one added. My point is, again, that these documents, though cherished, are not fixed, and they are not our idols, right? The revision of our principles and sources was a big deal for Unitarian Universalism at the time, and it is now. The process took several years and was emblematic of who we are: thoughtful, messy, argumentative sometimes, striving to be inclusive and to live with integrity, getting it wrong and trying again and learning and growing. And because we are a progressive faith, always working to keep on moving forward, we wrote into the covenant of our bylaws an agreement that we would review these principles, purposes, and sources at least every 15 years. In 2018, our association was at another crossroads, having traversed a public rupture in the covenant of our faith involving inequitable hiring practices at the UUA level. We were wrestling with how to incorporate a principle that will commit us to anti-racism and anti-oppression. And we were also talking about language that includes the inherent worth and dignity of all beings, not just the human ones. Rather than adopting these proposals piecemeal, the UUA formed the current Article 2 Study Commission, a group of people diverse in age, race, ethnicity, and perspective, and charged them with the work of reviewing and proposing changes to the entirety of Article 2. This is from the UUA Board's charge. The Article 2 Study Commission is hereby charged to propose any revisions that will enable our UUA, our member congregations, and our covenanted communities to be a relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice. Proposed changes should articulate core UU theological values. The board believes that one core theological value shared widely among UUs is love. Our commitment to personal, institutional, and cultural change rooted in anti-oppression, anti-racism, and multiculturalism is love in action and should be centered in any revision of Article 2. The Commission has been working hard to include all of our voices as they fulfill this charge, and this process takes a long time. The work of the Article 2 Study Commission is designed to help all of us, members of the congregations that make up the Unitarian Universalist Association, to consider these questions while we are engaged in this important association-wide reflection. First, what is most important to us? Meaning, what are our shared values? Second, what inspires us? Where do our values come from? Third, what is our work in the world, our mission and purpose? And fourth, what promises must we make to each other in covenant? The Commission has been gathering input by asking questions, as they did during General Assembly this past summer, to generate discussion among the gathered assembly, online and in person. They proposed these questions for dialogue. If you can put that up there, Adam, thank you. What is essential to you about being a Unitarian Universalist? What language helps you describe Unitarian Universalism to other people? What must we do now to pave the way for the future Unitarian Universalism we imagine? What do we need to help us act on our deep commitment to anti-racism and anti-oppression? And in what specific ways are we asked to transform lives, communities, and the world in these times? How would you answer these questions? I'm going to give you a few minutes, not a lot, it's getting late, but a few minutes, just to turn to the person next to you or someone next to you, hopefully someone that you didn't come with, to think about any one of these questions that draws you or compels you. Think about how you would answer that. And even if you're here for the first time, you have a valuable perspective of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. You came here for a reason. So please share as you are able. And those of you participating from home through the live stream, please share your thoughts in the chat. I'll give you about 3 minutes and I'll call you back using the bell. So be brave. If you need a minute to sit and think, if you're not into it, that's fine. You can sit quietly, but talk to each other. Good job. Thanks for doing that. Over the next several months, we will be considering more deeply the 4 areas that the Article 2 Study Commission are considering: our values, our inspirations, our purposes, and our covenants. I invite you to keep considering these questions and engaging in conversation about them. Beginning in November and continuing once a month for 6 sessions, a small group discussion on the review of the Article 2 will be offered on Wednesday evenings here, I think over Zoom actually. And so you can watch the newsletter for that. And I just learned that the Commission scheduled several feedback sessions open to all of us over Zoom this month, and I'll put that information out to the congregation through Realm. One is actually today, this afternoon. In January of 2023, the Article 2 Study Commission will have proposed language to present to the UUA Board for review, and then at the General Assembly in June of 2023, those gathered will vote on whether to study the proposal before voting on whether to approve them the following June 2024. This is a long, thoughtful process. So it really is, there's like no reason for us not to be engaged in it, right? Like we can do this. It matters what we believe. It matters how we express our beliefs. It matters how we live our beliefs and how we are in relationship to each other and the world as we live them. Who are we called to be in this extraordinary moment in time? What is most important to us? What inspires us? What is our work in the world, and what promises must we make to each other as we strive to accomplish our purposes? Each of us is called to be fully present to the best of our ability to our power and our possibility as we answer these questions. Let us continue to transition ourselves, to call ourselves and one another to keep moving forward with love and compassion toward a more equitable, liberated, and beautiful world. May it be so.
Extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by the Reverend Elizabeth Selle Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise, or stay risen, and join in singing our closing hymn, number 318, We Would Be One.
The power and the possibility of beloved community to make us whole, to nourish our spirits, and may we participate fully in the great transition and the transforming power of love. May it be so.